In a world full of noise, confusion, propaganda, and carefully manufactured narratives, we are all searching for something solid, something that feels like truth. And in Nigeria's turbulent political landscape, truth is often buried beneath loyalty, ego, ambition, and old rivalries that refuse to die. What happened after the AMAC local government election was not just about who won or lost. It was not just about party colors or campaign rallies. It was about something deeper. It was about the fragile illusion that the so-called Grand Opposition Alliance was ever truly united. The African Democratic Congress did not just lose an election in the Abuja Municipal Area Council. It lost the illusion that it had managed to paper over deep internal fractures. What cracked open that night was not just a coalition strategy, it was trust. And the loudest sound that followed that crack was not celebration against the ruling party. It was laughter. Laughter from supporters of Atiku Abubakar aimed squarely at Peter Obi. Within hours of the ADC candidate, Dr. Moses Paul, losing the AMAC election, the political temperature shifted dramatically. This was a candidate that Peter Obi had visibly, personally, and passionately campaigned for. He showed up. He invested his name. He lent his credibility. He brought the energy of the obedient movement into what many would normally dismiss as a routine local government contest. But when the result did not go in their favor, something revealing happened. Instead of sober reflection, instead of collective responsibility, certain factions began circulating the result like a trophy. The subtext was unmistakable. You see, Obi cannot deliver. The message was subtle in wording but loud in intention. The narrative being pushed was that Atiku Abubakar, not Peter Obi, should be the natural leader of the opposition going into 2027. The obedient movement did not stay silent. Ibrahim Abdulkarim, one of Peter Obi's vocal political allies, went public with a statement that made it clear that something fundamental had snapped. He declared that the coalition was fake. He clarified that he did not resign from the Labour Party and insisted that like-minded people would rather rebuild structures within the Labour Party than waste time in what he described as a coalition of insincere actors. Those words were not mild. They were not diplomatic. They reflected deep frustration. And when a coalition begins to publicly question its own authenticity, you know the cracks are no longer cosmetic. They are structural. Let us be honest about something many people whisper privately but avoid saying openly. A significant faction within that coalition never truly wanted Peter Obi to succeed independently. They wanted his numbers. They wanted the millions of passionate young Nigerians who rallied behind him in 2023. They wanted the digital energy, the volunteer networks, the grassroots enthusiasm that surprised the entire political establishment. But they did not necessarily want Peter Obi leading the ticket. The uncomfortable truth is that some saw him as an asset to be absorbed, not as a candidate to be empowered. And that strategic miscalculation may now be the coalition's biggest weakness. Atiku Abubakar has been a central figure in Nigeria's opposition politics for years. A former vice president, a seasoned political operator, and a familiar name on presidential ballots. But Peter Obi's rise in 2023 disrupted a long-standing assumption that Atiku Abubakar was the automatic inheritor of the anti-APC vote. The obedient movement changed that equation. It revealed that millions of Nigerians were not just tired of the APC establishment under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but also tired of the old guard opposition politics associated with the People's Democratic Party. That shift was seismic. And seismic shifts do not happen without resentment from those displaced by them. The Abuja Municipal Area Council is not just any local government. It sits within the Federal Capital Territory, the political nerve center of Nigeria. Winning there carries symbolism far beyond local governance. A victory for a candidate openly backed by Peter Obi would have sent a powerful signal heading into 2027. It would have reinforced the idea that his movement was not just social media noise but a real, mobilizable electoral force. It would have demonstrated competitiveness even within the shadow of Aso Rock. But when Dr. Moses Paul lost, the narrative machinery moved quickly. The storyline being amplified was simple: Obi campaigned and still lost. Therefore, his influence is exaggerated. Therefore, he cannot deliver. But that interpretation ignores context. The APC controls the federal government. It controls significant institutional machinery within the territory. Elections in Nigeria have long been contested terrain, with accusations of vote suppression, manipulation, and strategic interference from opposition parties over the years. Whether one agrees or disagrees with those claims, they are part of the political reality that shapes outcomes. Yet here is the irony that many conveniently ignored. Atiku Abubakar also endorsed the coalition candidate. This was not solely Peter Obi's project. It was a coalition candidate. Celebrating that defeat as evidence against Peter Obi implicitly meant celebrating a coalition failure. That contradiction exposes a deeper problem. Was the coalition truly about defeating the APC? Or was it about positioning internal actors for dominance? Inside the ADC coalition today are two irreconcilable camps. On one side stands the Atiku Abubakar faction, veteran politicians, elements of the old PDP establishment, and northern political heavyweights who believe experience and long-standing networks are what win elections. On the other side stands the Obi faction, the obedient movement, younger voters, civil society figures, and reform-minded Nigerians who see Peter Obi as a departure from recycled political leadership. These camps are not arguing about minor tactics. They are disagreeing about philosophy. One side wants to restore what it considers experienced leadership. The other wants to break from what it sees as entrenched political stagnation. That is not a disagreement you resolve with press statements. That is a fundamental ideological divide. And no political coalition survives long when its core members do not agree on its identity. The dilemma facing the ADC is existential. If it chooses Atiku Abubakar as its 2027 presidential flag bearer, it risks alienating the energized obedient base, arguably one of the most passionate and mobilized voter blocs in recent Nigerian history. If it chooses Peter Obi, it risks losing the old guard networks that have historically shaped national campaigns. Either choice creates fractures, but refusing to choose creates paralysis. Nigeria's politics has long operated within an informal zoning understanding, a balance between North and South. After President Muhammadu Buhari, a northerner, served 2 terms, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a southerner, won in 2023, the argument for zoning within opposition strategy is not just about fairness but electoral arithmetic. Many political analysts argue that a southern opposition candidate may present a more competitive challenge in 2027. Peter Obi remains the only opposition figure who currently commands significant cross-regional enthusiasm, particularly among young voters. His supporters are not passive. They are active. They organize. They monitor polling units. They volunteer without pay. That kind of political capital is rare. It cannot be manufactured overnight, and it cannot simply be transferred by endorsement. Atiku Abubakar, on the other hand, brings experience, established networks, and name recognition. But he also carries the baggage of previous attempts and established rivalries. The question for the coalition is strategic. Which asset is more valuable in 2027, institutional experience or grassroots momentum? Meanwhile, the ruling APC observes the opposition's internal conflict with quiet satisfaction. A divided opposition historically benefits the incumbent. Political history across democracies shows that incumbents rarely lose when their challengers are fragmented and busy fighting each other. The coalition now stands at a crossroads. It can continue internal power struggles, attempting to pressure Peter Obi into a subordinate role under Atiku Abubakar. Or it can make a bold calculation and restructure itself around the candidate who currently commands the most visible grassroots enthusiasm. The choice is not merely about personalities. It is about identity. Is the opposition offering Nigerians continuity under different branding? Or is it offering transformation? Nigerian voters in 2023 demonstrated a hunger for alternatives. Whether that hunger translates into victory in 2027 depends largely on whether opposition leaders prioritize collective strategy over personal ambition. What happened in AMAC was not the end of anything. It was a warning, a preview, a stress test that exposed the coalition's weakest joints. The laughter, the tweets, the subtle jabs, they were symptoms of a deeper unresolved struggle for dominance. As 2027 approaches, Nigerians will not just be evaluating candidates. They will be evaluating coherence, unity, credibility, and authenticity. A coalition that cannot manage its internal contradictions may struggle to convince voters it can manage a nation. This is Brainspot Media, bringing you political analysis without fear, without favor, and without filters. If you believe in informed conversations, subscribe to Brainspot Media, turn on notifications, share your thoughts in the comments. The road to 2027 has already begun. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay vigilant,